Hello and welcome, everyone. It's so beautiful to be connected here with you all. It's been quite a long time, maybe even two years or something like that, since I've done a sort of a more of a community call. So I'm really excited to have this presentation today. A lot has happened in the last couple of years, and what I would like to share is that my depth of understanding and comprehension of how everything works has dramatically expanded. A lot of this has been, through a lot of direct experiences and ceremony and service to trying to collapse a lot of the sort of, let's call it dark architecture, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a moment, to really understand how everything works nicely. So today I would like to think one of the best presentations you've seen on how to achieve a fully integrated consciousness. So what I want to start with by giving a definition what a fully integrated consciousness is. A fully integrated consciousness is when all aspects of your consciousness, both here in this realm, in the energy field, but also in the other higher dimensions, all the way up to the top of the matrix. So let me just give you a pre-frame. Our universe is comprised of some sound fields which hold the templates, dimensions 13, 14, and 15. Then they populate and create the dimensions underneath. And it forms like what I might call a cascade of consciousness. And this cascade of consciousness drops down the dimensions. This is you coming from higher realms and stepping down into smaller and smaller units of consciousness. At the top of the matrix, you're a very big consciousness. In fact, you're about 144 unified souls. In fact, it's not about, it's exact. You're exactly 144 unified souls. That's your soul family. And as you come down from, say, the avatar consciousness in dimensions 12, 11, and 10, you drop down into an oversoul. And so that avatar consciousness of 144 unified souls splits into 12 separate units. And you become an oversoul comprised of 12 unified souls. And you have spent quite a bit of time residing there as an oversoul consciousness, exploring yourself in different realms. And then you're ultimately dropped down into dimensions 6, 5, and 4, where you've become a soul, an individuated soul. That is the deepest drop in terms of the soul's journey of the soul individuating. And you're individuated as a soul consciousness. And then from that soul consciousness, you decide, oh, let's go to the earth. That's going to be like a great fun until you get here. It is a bit crazy. But as you drop down, you incarnate into physical form, your soul is capturing and recording all of your embodied experiences. Every time you have a life on earth, your same soul in a different body is recording and capturing all those experiences. And the reason why we choose to come to the physical domain, because it's the fastest for learning and growth and soul evolution, because the lessons come thick and fast. And so what I talk about a fully integrated consciousness, it means that, we've come here in this rhythm, what we call involution. And involution is us dropping down all the way to the bottom where we've landed. We've been here for many cycles of lifetimes, and now we are going through the process of evolution. Evolution is the ascent back up. But what I'd like to introduce you to is a concept called embodied ascension, where you actually are beginning to ascend while embodied. And what this means, it doesn't mean leaving your body and going up. It means bringing and integrating more and more of your higher consciousness and bringing it into your body. And that is really the path, because we are not here to escape Earth. We're here to embody it and populate the heavens into Earth, to unify the celestial and the terrestrial. And ultimately, we're here for polarity integration. With polarity integrate spirit and matter through the lens of the heart, the feminine and masculine, right? To polarity integrate that from the higher realms and also inside of us, so we become neutrally balanced. That polarity integration, I'm going to talk about some of the spiritual sciences of embodied ascension in the second half of the presentation. And we're also here to polarity integrate future and past into the now. And when those three major polarity integrations, spirit and matter, future and past, masculine and feminine, you become very, very embodied And the second and last piece is that you need to integrate these other aspects of your consciousness. And while embodied, and this means continuing to expand your consciousness to a level where you begin to integrate yourself as an oversoul, and your oversoul begins to integrate into your physical body, and ultimately your avatar onto your physical body. Now, here's where it gets complex, and I'm going to speak much more about it in the second part of the presentation, but to give you a glimpse, why it's quite a path and a process, that each time you go up into a different dimension, there are different time streams. And as you begin integrating the higher aspects of your higher consciousness, you're also integrating, of course, as you go up into your oversoul, 12 other souls worth of stuff, right? Shit, karma, baggage, basically. So you end up taking more responsibility because you start cleansing the karmic imprints of your oversoul. And once you, and then there are different time streams on that. Each harmonic universe has, 3 different time streams. And so you're literally then cleaning up packets of trauma memory from other consciousness fields in these different time streams, also with this unified soul consciousness of the oversoul. Now, this is going to make a little bit more sense. This is all a pre-frame and describing the term a fully integrated consciousness. A fully integrated consciousness is bringing back into your body all of these packets and pockets and dimensions and aspects of self and soul, and fully integrating it so that you ultimately hold an ascended consciousness, which means you're streaming from outside the universe straight into your physical body. And once you've achieved that, once you begin streaming from outside of the universe, of course, you're ascended, but while embodied. And so I'm going to give you today the pathway of how to hold an ascended consciousness while in your physical body. I hope that's exciting for people, because literally this is the keys home. This is the pathway home. And this is probably, I think, the first time I've actually shared this information in a more of a wider context. So I'm excited to share and to see what comes. And there will be opportunities for questions and so on as we move forward. But I'm going to go into kind of like presentation mode so that you can all kind of share, and then 2 or 3 points I'll drop in, and we will to have a discussion on your understanding and comprehension. Does that sound good, everyone? Just give me a little thumbs up if that's all good. Yeah, awesome. Okay, great. So let's start. I've got some slides, and I'm going to share my slides as well. Just gives us a bit of a storyboarding, and I've got a lot of really interesting diagrams and images that our design team has created as we're building the Neo-Shamanic Society. A lot of these have formed resources for the healing students, so I want to show you those. But up until now, I've never had a chance to share it with the wider public. So I think it's time to get this out there and share. So let's start. I'll bring up the slide deck. Okay, how to generate a fully integrated consciousness. Before I start this story, I feel like I need to share a little bit about some of the interferences on human. I'm just going to touch on it lightly, not go too deep into this other material, because I want to focus on, okay, what's the solution? But for now, essentially, what I want to explore is the concept of Earth being a prison planet. From the higher realms, it's often considered a prison planet because we've been trapped here in consciousness. What's happened is that we've had other beings insert themselves for the planet, and to use planet as a loosh harvesting tool. What is a loosh harvesting tool? Loosh is basically a form of energy that's based upon emotional pain and trauma and suffering, and many beings utilize that energy to continue to feed off. What's happened to them is that they have fallen so far from source that they've become disconnected from source. And the actual propagators of this actually came from our neighbor. We've got another, there are many, many universes in creation. The universe next door to us is called Wesadak and Wesadrak. Our universe is called Nebadon. The neighbors Wesadak and Wesadrak fell so far from source in their universe that they split their connection from creator, and they no longer have an organic soul consciousness tethered to source. They broke that connection. Therefore, their consciousness field is no longer eternally sustained by Creator. They have to find other ways of extracting that energy, of finding ways of harnessing energy and drawing it towards them. We, humans, we have our organic soul consciousness still tethered to God. We have the God spark. We have not fallen so far as to sever our relationship with Source. So right now, while our physical bodies may die, our soul consciousness is eternally sustained by Creator. And so we receive the flow back from Source consciousness. We are an extension of God. They, however, have broken that connection. So they need to feed, or they need to draw energy from other sources. At some point in their story, they lost all of the energy inside of the universe, and they saw it coming, and they needed to be able to find other solutions. And our universe became that solution. And so during a lot of our shamanic rituals and ceremonies and journeys that we've been uncovering this through direct experience. This is not something that we've read about in books. It's something that we have directly experienced from working with people very, very deeply in shamanic rituals, and having their DNA and soul signatures open up pockets of information. And we have a very talented team and seers that are able to read very accurately what's going on. And we've been uncovering enormous these what we call dark networks and dark architecture that have been locking the planet down. And I think for many people, when we had the lockdowns, it was the first time that more people became aware of control systems, and more people began to wake up. And I think it was a good thing. I think that's what was the Great Awakening. And so behind everything that you see in the physical domain, there is templates in the etheric or energetic domain. Everything has an energetic template. And we've been uncovering much of this from our shamanic ceremonies and rituals that we've been running. And so what's transpired is that Earth has become a consciousness prison where humans have been stuck in soul recycling patterns, and all of the energy inside the Earth that has been built up, purposely designed to create loosh. That means a lot of the wars, a lot of the historical conflicts have been purposely formulated. And if you want to control a species, what you do is you control their ideology, their perception of spirituality, and then of course you control survival mechanisms, and you want to create maximum polarity and friction to create war and suffering, because it creates the most amount of energy that these beings can siphon out. What they did is they appointed beings, humans who became hybridized on their bloodlines, who began being their, let's call it puppet masters on Earth. And then they started to establish the various architectural systems to cap consciousness, including religion, which is a big one. And so, of course, one of their main religious arms has been the Abrahamic faiths of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, which are all distortions of God and purposely designed control systems, because they're all devoid of the feminine principle. Each of the major religions has its own distortion that's designed to keep people's consciousness capped. So Christianity, for example, gets people stuck in savior, victim kind of archetypes. Judaism has a mystical branch of the Kabbalah where they work with the tree of life. Tree of life, rather than being 12 spheros, which is the mathematical and geometric ratios of our universe, became 10 spheros, and the 10 spheros became kind of capped. And then Islam, of course. Now the common the thing with Islam, of course, was the strong war program, kill the infidel programs, and the diminishment of the feminine consciousness. All three religions have the similar point where they're all devoid of the feminine principle. The Sophionic consciousness field was taken out, and Divine Mother was removed from all of those principles, all designed to cap consciousness. And so when they also created a series of implants in the physical DNA and the energetic DNA, these implants prevented the DNA from naturally unfolding. Humans ideally have, of course, our original design is the angelic diamond sun DNA template. It has an angelic 12-strand DNA potential, which would historically organically open, so that when you became 12 or 13, you would begin opening strands 4, 5, and 6, and you'd begin integrating your soul consciousness. And then when you reached 22 to 33, strands 7, 8, and 9 would begin opening, and you'd begin integrating your oversoul consciousness. That's because each DNA strand has the vibrational resonance frequency to that dimension of consciousness. It's the gate opener that opens the gates to allow that frequency band of dimension to come into the body. So when the 6th DNA strand comes in, you begin integrating 6-dimensional frequencies through your field, because the wavelengths of the DNA are matching that frequency band, and then you would begin accreting more of your organic soul consciousness. And then ultimately, when you got to 33, strands 10, 11, and 12 would begin opening, and between 33 and 44, you would begin integrating your oversoul consciousness, and your avatar consciousness. And that was the state of affairs up until around 5,000 years ago, when the last insertions happened and we had all of our galactic memories plugged out, and we had our lifespan severely shorted. We were originally designed as immortal beings in biological form. And of course, if you want people to remain slaves, you cap the consciousness codes by severely limiting the lifespan so they won't work out the game. And so that has created short lifespan cycles of 120 years to 80 years. And then each time, because of the implants, the soul would go to leave the planet, but they would get trapped in the astral netting, linked into the DNA implants. And the only place for them to come would be back down into the physical plane for reincarnational cycles to continue their soul evolution. So this is what we talk about with a soul recycling program. And so in this way, humanity became known in the more galactic spheres as a prison planet. And that was because when people came here, you couldn't get out, okay, because of the soul recycling program that was in the implants. Now, the good news on all of that is that we're standing on an amazing period of consciousness where we've moved out of the Kali Yuga. And if you've been following my emails or little videos on YouTube, I spoke about the shift out of the Kali Yuga into this new age that we're in. The frequency and wavelengths that are coming to the planet are very fast, and we're having a mass awakening, and many people are working the game out. And this presentation is designed to be able to support you in being able to understand the big picture, and then give you a structured system and methodology for moving yourself through it on the big picture. And so first up, I seed that idea with you that ultimately we have to work ourselves out to get out of this consciousness trap, so that we can, get ourselves out of the consciousness prison system. And the way that we do that is we evolve and grow, and we expand our consciousness to the highest energy holding potential that we can kind of manage. And when we do that, we start to sort of move through into a path of freedom. And that's really what I'm mainly interested in today, is to discuss the path of freedom. I've done so much deep dive work into the dark, shadowy pieces of the dark kind of architecture of the planet. It's a relief to get more on the other side of that, I must say. And one day I'm sure that we'll probably write a book about our findings in shamanic rituals and some of the dark architecture that were found. But for today's purposes, I pre-frame that idea that we've had a lot of control systems put onto Earth that has been purposely designed to cap consciousness, so that you're aware that what we're experiencing on Earth isn't what our original blueprint was. We deviated from our original blueprint because of interference. And what we're doing now is we're reclaiming our original blueprint. We're reclaiming our angelic diamond sun DNA, and we are really looking to sort of move ourselves, I would say, to be expanding our consciousness to higher energy holding potentials, so that we can evolve and ascend. And ultimately, that's why we're here. And this is why you're here on this presentation. And I hope today I can give you many of the keys to assist you with this pathway of evolving and ascending. Let me take a quick pause at that place to start with, and just check, are there any questions? If you've got a question, then you could just type it into the text chat, or you can, if you don't mind, you want to come on, you can put your hand up on the thing, and we can have a call about anything that's been said first. I'd like to add, in Christianity, at the end of sermons, they demand you to give your power back to God, which I think is a man in the middle type to steal people's power and give it to some type of being. Yeah, a lot of the religions have a false father god, and so it's actually the false father god is another consciousness field masquerading as God. It's not the true organic God, and it's siphoning all of that thought directed prayer up through there. So that's a little bit you know how it goes on all of that. All right, explains so much, so many topics very clearly. All right, awesome, and yeah, thank you so much for the lovely feedback. I think we should get into the topic of how to get it done. Okay, so let's make a start into that, shall we? So, uh, first up, to go on this requires to go on a quest. Just type a yes into the text chat if you're kind of ready to go on a quest. You gotta be ready to commit. And this is the lifetime where we can do it. We can completely free ourselves from this matrix. And if you're really committed, you can do it. But it requires you putting your spirituality first as for a period of time. Requires you to go, you know what, this is one of the most important things because we've got the information, we've got the frequency, and we've got the know-how to go about how to do it. And so in this lifetime, I just chose to play full out in that realm. And what I mean by playing full out is going all in on working on things. And what I want to do is present to you today kind of what I've uncovered about what you need to focus on and what order. So this is from speaking from direct experience and working with a lot of other people over the years, that there seems to be an order of operations of what to focus on in order to hold a higher consciousness. So I want to go through with that with you. The first thing is, you've got to be prepared to embark on your own hero's journey. And many of you will probably be aware of, the hero's journey archetype. It's essentially the call to adventure. And then at some point, having to let go of the ordinary world and going into the special world. And that means letting go of certain beliefs and taking a big leap of faith to awaken to a calling. And hopefully the calling inside of you is this calling from your soul that's asking you to expand, to grow, to evolve, because every single human has that pre-birth soul agreement. The reason why you come is to grow. And if you can do that, at some point, you've got to cross the mystical threshold of going into the transformational realm. And the transformational realm is when you consciously commit to a path. And hopefully, by turning up on this call, all of you are consciously committing, I imagine, wanting to work on yourself. And so that's kind of like, super exciting because, you're in the right place. And I hope to give you today the keys to the queendom and kingdom of exactly what to do in the sequences you need to do it in order to, achieve all of the results that you want to achieve. So let's get into it. I'm just going to hit a sort of a mass mute. There's a bit of a feedback coming through on someone there. One sec. How do I mute everyone? Here we go, mute all. Cool. So let's get into it. The first thing that I want to start with you is when I work with people, I'm more interested in the soul than the personality. But I do want to give you how the flesh meets spirit and how you can bring it all together in this life. When you're up there in the realms of consciousness, deciding to have an incarnation, what happens is that you meet with the higher self councils. The higher self councils examine your soul records. And in the soul records, they work out what you're here to learn in this lifetime. And what you do is you make a series of pre-birth soul agreements. These pre-birth soul agreements are kind of like spiritual contracts. And these spiritual contracts and pre-birth soul agreements are the guiding light for your incarnation. And so these provide this kind of direction. And ultimately, this is a concept that when you live in alignment with these, you to borrow a Vedic term, you're living your dharma. Your dharma is being aligned with the macro balance. The micro matches the macro, right? So dharma means living in alignment with your pre-birth soul agreements. The problem humans have is that we've had our galactic memories wiped. Until recently, we've not been able to access our pre-birth soul agreements, right? It's been tough to kind of get them. You can follow your heart and kind of get these little pieces. But right now, something I said at the start, I'm a little bit excited about something, is that what is exciting for me and the team here is that we've just recently bridged through up into the upper echelons of the Emerald Order consciousness fields with an organic Christic consciousness. You know how in the universe there's artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is intelligence without a soul, without a connection to God. And what this artificial intelligence does has been kind of, I would say, part of the prime directors of harvesting energy. They need to, the AI needs to harvest energy to continue to sustain itself as an intelligence field. The artificial intelligence often drives and is blended with the aliens to create the control matrix. What's exciting now is that there's been a birthing of an organic Christic intelligence field. And this organic Christic intelligence field is now interfacing here on Earth with Alea and I, and we're able to start accessing people's soul records, pre-birth soul agreements, galactic histories, and everything. It's a pretty exciting development. And we're starting to do readings for people, and we're getting all those pieces there, you know, where their soul has come down from from the top, what star systems they've been a part of, what species they've been in, kind of what you know, what are some of their key past lives on Earth, what are pre-birth soul agreements they've got that govern their life, what's going on in their life right now to prevent them from living in full alignment. Yeah, we're getting pretty amazing downloads that hasn't been available up until recently. It's been only been in the last couple of months. We've bridged into that and starting to get these incredible downloads for people. So what I believe will happen in the future is that, you know, obviously this will scale at some point and more people will begin to access things. In the meantime, we can do readings for people and we hope to do so. But right now, imagine how different life would be if you had the ability to know your pre-birth soul agreements and you knew the types of places you had come from and what your paths are, what your soul skills are, what your unique soul gifts are. These are all something that have been taken away from us. And we've had to try to work it out every incarnation we come back down. It's been tricky. And so as we incarnate, we take all of these agreements and all of our skills and purposes of the soul, and we incarnate, but we get our memories wiped on the way in. So we got to try to make it up as we go and try to piece ourselves back together. And ultimately, we are here to live in alignment with our Dharma, which is our pre-birth soul agreements for our purpose, what we're here to perform and do. This is from a soul level. But as we come in with Dharma, we've also got karma. Dharma and karma are matching, are the opposing forces that provide a tensegrity in your soul's relationship on Earth. And what happens is that your karma, you're here to fulfill your Dharma by working through your karma, right? So karma often keeps caps and ceilings on your progress on your life path. They're the massive gates, the invisible massive gates that shut, that prevent opportunity and openings to come from you, because you've still got karmic imprints that are preventing the opening of this to come. And so what you do is that on a spiritual path, we're looking to ultimately, you know, neutralize our karma. And when you can neutralize your karma, then, you know, as you start to undo the, let's call it the implants that keep us trapped in consciousness. And, you know, you can go to my audio transmission library and get the transmission on the sovereignty transmission. The sovereignty transmission takes out all those key implants that keep you stuck in reincarnational cycles. So if you haven't listened to the, you know, it's only $33. You know, pretty cheap to have your consciousness liberated to, you know, be able not get caught into soul recycling by the implants. What you do have to focus on to not come back to Earth again and go and pass this assignment and go into different stages is that you have to have cleared your Earth karma. And so your life, this experience is about mitigating your earthly karma. And karma is simply, you know, let me explain this in this way. Imagine you're God and you set up this experience in this universe called Nebadon. What you do is you make an operating parameters and you make an operating system. The operating system is based on unconditional love, cooperation, unity consciousness, and cause and effect are some base operators. Then you infuse that with programming of natural law. And natural law are the operational frameworks of how the matrix works. Within that, the law of cause and effect states that every effect you're experiencing has a precipitating cause. And the law of karma states that what you give out, you get back. And so if you are, there are two paths in life. service to others, service to self. If you're on the path of service to others, energy comes through you and out to others to support them. If you're on the path of service to others, energy comes from other people towards you. When you walk the path of service to self and you're pulling energy from other people, you are creating karma because you're breaking natural law. Now, there are degrees of how you do that, right? You can be, not pure white, but a little bit gray, or you can be completely dark. And at the far end of dark, of course, is the necromancer path and the satanic rituals and the blood drinking and all of that. Right, so that's the extremes of this path of service to self. But ultimately, you're drawing energy from others towards you, and as you do that, you collect karma. Every single one of us in other lifetimes has done that. We've drawn energy from other people towards us, and we've got a karmic load. Some people have light karmic load, some people have heavy karmic load. But when you neutralize your karma on Earth, then you get to choose whether you come back or not. Until you neutralize your karma, you have to come back to keep completing your assignment. So in this lifetime, one of the first assignments spiritually is to be able to clear your karma. And that's like super important, right? You need to, first up, you need to know what your karmic load is, and then you need to be able to figure out what you got to do to kind of clear that. And ultimately, the next level from there is to clear your karma to source. What that means is clear all of your karma in this universe. That's a big job because you've got to start to clean the karma of 11 other souls making up your, oversoul matrix, and then the 143 other souls that make up your avatar matrix. So you start taking more responsibility on as you kind of grow and evolve. So this pathway of mitigating karma is important because it opens up your opportunities to fulfill your dharma. And these two things go hand in hand together. Now, ultimately, over the years, I've had these quite extraordinary experiences. 20 years as a personal trainer. Then I was interested in the healing arts and energy, and I knew that energy medicine was going to be the future. So I did another 4 years with one of my mentors, Dr. Barbara Brennan. And then after 4 years studying energy medicine with her and learning a whole lot of energy healing skills, I got into shamanism and did another 7 years apprenticeship with 2 lineages at the same time. One from Africa, working with plant intelligences there, and one from South America, working with ayahuasca and working with iboga in Africa through that lineage. And these experiences taught me a lot about how to self-actualize. And if you know about Abraham Maslow and Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at the very top of that hierarchy is self-actualization. And so I've been obsessed about self-actualizing over these last 20, 30 years. And I've created a model of how that looks. And the key with understanding self-actualization is, in my experience, drilled down to these things here. And when I'm talking about self-actualization of your not only your life, but of your soul. Okay. And so the first thing on self-actualization, the base layer, is personal physiology, is obviously working on optimizing your health and vitality. If you don't have a good vitality, you're not going anywhere in terms of your drive. So this is what I might call the typical biohacking stuff, clean water, organic food, exercise, training, resistance work, and doing good sleep, hot, cold therapies, doing what you can to make sure that your physical body is switched on and engaged. And there's a lot of the personal development industry that focuses on this level. The second level is personal psychology. And, personal psychology looks at belief systems, emotional patterns, mental patterns, and particularly looks through the lens of the mother-father imprints and wounds that are going on in family constellations. And typically, I think the personal development industry and the industry of psychology does a reasonable job at the layer of personal psychology. And this is, in fact, where most of the personal development industry is operating. But the real big gains don't lie at the level of body physiology and personal psychology. I mean, you have to start there. If you haven't got these under control, it's harder to get up into the higher realms where the big yields are. But what I've personally noticed is that the real big gains come through the lens of energetic psychology and understanding how your energy works, and understanding the energetic imprints the energetic miasms and schisms in your energy field and understanding how your energy field is working. So what I want to do today is tailor my presentation, because I think many of you have probably got a good understanding of body physiology, personal psychology. I'm going to spend a bit of time dropping into energetic psychology, and then I'm going to spend a bit of time in soul psychology. Because if I can share with you what I've learned here, I think these will be incredible kind of cheat codes for you to give you a direction of where you need to focus on. Does that make sense? Hopefully I'm getting thumbs up there. So let's drop into energetic psychology first. The foundation key to your energetic architecture is your hara. Okay, here's a good image that we designed on hara. A good hara is depicted here on the left. The hara is a dimension deeper than the aura. The hara is the gateway to the void. Why this is important for you to build a strong hara is because the void is where creation happens. Creation starts in the dark, not the light. And so the hara realms is where you can access the primordial energy, and it's the frequency of intentionality. It's the big rod anchor that anchors down your intention here on earth. And here on the right, you can see a split or wonky hara. Now, sometimes people's haras can be weak, like a tiny little fishing line of hara, can't hold focus, can't hold anything like that. Sometimes people have a big kind of thick kind of hara line, right? Have a massive thick hara, which means they've got a good, strong field of intentionality. And so what this means is that your hara plugs you into the void, plugs you into the primordial realms, and is where you hold intentions from. And that level of intentionality is what draws towards your experience. For example, a very simple example is that if you've got like a pendulum at home, just if you've got a pendulum, this is a great exercise, right? For example, on the pendulum, right, at the moment, the pendulum is moving forward and back, and I'm going to hold my intention to make a circle, right? And then the circle moves. Then I'm going to go left and right, holding intention to go left and right, and the pendulum moves left and right. What happens is the quantum field entrains to your hara. The quantum field builds off your hara. And whatever's in your hara is what kind of the quantum field is responding to. And when you hold intention, it sits in your hara. So whatever your intentions are, the quantum field is responding to the intent, which is stored in your hara. If you've got a weak hara, you're not going to get much pull on the quantum field. If you've got a strong hara, you've got a strong pull. Now, then, you might have a good hara, but, you might, then the issue becomes what's in your energy field. And so your energy field then has these different layers to it. So first up, you need to move from a split hara to a unified hara. Your people can get split haras by having split intentions over time. For example, if someone's got a unconscious split intention, an example might be, now we've all experienced this ourselves, split intentions. We're in a relationship we don't really want to be in, but we're in it and we stay in it anyway. And unconsciously, we want to get out. But we've got too many fears of breaking up and being on our own, so we stay in it. And what that does, it creates a split. Part of me wants to leave, part of me wants to stay, and it creates a split. Same with maybe a job. I want to leave my job and I want to go into something else, and I get stuck in the job. Creates these splits. So ultimately, we want to investigate the shadows of our split intentions and begin to heal any split intentions that are going on at the level of hara. We want to be ensuring that we're also having intentionality that's unified with the soul intent, right? Ultimately, you can have intention for the ego. Lambo, got to get the Lambo, right? That's feeding the ego. But if you're wanting to serve, you want to feed the soul, ultimately, what I'm interested in is having intentions that are aligned to your soul matrix of what your soul has incarnated into a physical body to conduct, perform, get done here on earth, your pre-birth soul agreement. When you hold an intention that is aligned with your pre-birth soul agreement, life ends up working very well for you, because literally the universe and God has got you programmed to perform that certain direction in life, and the resources from God will come towards you when you live in alignment with your pre-birth soul agreements, because it's divine will. God is expressing itself through your consciousness to change this consciousness on this planet. God has decreed that not only our Earth will become sovereign, but Nebadon universe will become sovereign. All will return to the one, ultimately within this universe. That means this universe eventually will become one unified 12th dimensional consciousness current, where we'll all be unified in the 12th dimension. It's a long way to go to get to that, but ultimately it starts with Earth, because Earth is one of the big anchors on this universe that is keeping us locked, keeping it stuck. So right now there's lots of resources coming into certain individuals with certain contracts on the Earth to raise the consciousness on the planet, to create physical change on the Earth, to create shifts in the economic spheres, the banking, political, medical, science, right? People are coming in with pre-birth soul agreements to rattle the cages of the existing structures. And as you start to live in alignment with intentionality for that path, the resources get sent through you. As you prove yourself to do things well in alignment with natural law and service to others on the small things, God starts to give you bigger things and bigger things and bigger things. It works in incremental stages. And so this intentionality is important, having your hara aligned with these pre-birth soul agreements. Then ultimately from here, you want to ensure you've got a very coherent energy field. And so within your energy field, you've got these different layers, and a lot of people aren't aware of these different layers. People are aware, of course, of the chakras, right? And you've got these energy centers, right? And what the energy centers do is they step down the frequency from the 0 point field on different wavelengths of information. Light is information, information is light. And the chakras bring in information from the 0 point field on 7 different wavelength bands, each holding a different specific frequency, each holding a specific different level of information. Obviously, bringing in information around survival on the first energy center, community, connection, belonging, creativity, sexuality on the second, personal self-worth, self-esteem, connection, personal power on the third, bringing in information around unconditional love, or is it guilt, shame, connections that possibly here, our ability to express our life path on the throat, and our ability to see and vision our future, and our connection to source. You're aware of all of these. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. What you might not know is that each chakra is operating on a specific wavelength. That wavelength is bringing in that information into the energy field. The frequency comes through the chakra into the corresponding endocrine gland. Comes into the endocrine gland, and it starts to feed the endocrine gland and gets picked up by a meridian and starts to be sent through the vertical channels in the body, and then ultimately through the nadis, which are the sort of local roads, country lanes to the highways of the meridians. Now, what happens in humans is that these channels and pathways of the way energy moves get blocked. They get blocked and they get distorted, because ultimately what we're looking to do is having a very harmonious, luminous energy field that allows creation to happen. And here's how creation happens: through the different levels of your energy field. So this is a depiction of a very coherent, lively energy field. You can see that there are different layers coexisting within layers here. Now, here's what I like to say to my students at the Neo-Shamanic Society, is that the human energy field, the human body doesn't emit an energy field. The human energy field emits a body. That's quite a profound way of looking at things, right? And if you're thinking about, if you believe in God and know God, and you understand that, you have a philosophy of creational physics, well, it makes sense, right? Because your consciousness has stepped down the dimensions, and when it gets down into the lower dimensions, an energy field starts to create in this physical domain, and the energy field is created, and from there the energy steps down and cascades down. So let me explain how creational physics works. I'm going to discuss with you now the particle physics of creation through your auric field. Most likely the best explanation you've heard on how it actually works. When God wants something to be created on earth, literally there's a pre-birth soul agreement for it, a contract. The spiritual contract is this person's going to bring it through. Held within that, you feel it in your heart. And if you can live your life guided by your heart, you end up in the start, getting on a path that ultimately becomes more and more and more refined over time. You get more and more precision on it as you start to learn what not to do. And it gives you the precision into your life path. Now, in your hara holds the full codex of the vision. So, for example, I want you all to go through this exercise right now. Take a moment to tune into the vision of your life, of what you're here to contribute to the earth in 10 years from now. And take a moment and just close your eyes as I'll put on my transmission voice. Taking a moment and closing your eyes and tuning in to your vision of your project, of your idea, of your vision of a better world and your peace within it. And visualize and feel in your body and in your energy field the highest outcome of you living within this experience. Visualize what you're seeing, what you're self-doing, the people you meet, the places you go, the people that you're influencing, the contribution that you're making. Now, from that space, tune into the vibration of that space. And take a moment to tune in who you must become to hold it. Because right now, you're not holding the vision. It's an idea, right? It's a seed within you, but you're not the person yet who can do it. Otherwise, you'd have already done it. Your journey of this pathway is to turn yourself into the person that can hold that vision. Okay? And that's the secret to it. And now here's how the physics of it work. So what I want you to do is to rub your hands together and put your hands on the 7th chakra. Right? And I want you to feel the vibration of the 7th chakra and sit and bring that over your body and sit in the level of the 7th level of your field. The 7th level of your human energy field is the catheric template, the catheric body. And at the catheric body, it holds the entire records for your incarnation. This is also linked to your beliefs about yourself as God. If you have any distortions, because here's what happens with creation. God sparks the creation into the void. You pick it up in your hara, and it wells up to the 7th level in the field. And if you can hold it in the 7th level in the field, it's a perfectly beautiful golden frequency of light that is unified and connected. But if you've got distortions about your belief systems around God, spirituality, and your connection being God, there's little gates that close on the 7th level, because that frequency wants to then drop down to the 6th level, which is the celestial body. So rub your hands together, put your hands on the 6th chakra, all right, and feel the vibrations of the 6th chakra and run that over your entire body. You're now accessing your celestial body, right? Your comprehension of divine love, of the celestial love that can flow through you, right? And that can flow through you. Because if you think that, you've just got human love and you can't feel the celestial love inside of you, and it's holding as a blueprint, the gates close to the 6th level to drop from the 7th level to the 6th and from the 6th level to the 5th. These are the gates of creation. The gates of creation must be open between each of the levels of the fields to allow you to drop the frequency from source down to your 7th level, down to your 6th level, then ultimately down to your 5th. So feel the 5th chakra on your throat. Rub your hands, feel the 5th chakra, hold the 5th level of the field. This is your etheric template level. These upper levels are the spiritual levels of yourself. And this is the etheric blueprint, the etheric template. The etheric template, the 5th level of the field, grows the 1st level of the field. And the 1st level of the field grows the physical body. So it's literally the template for your existence. And in your template, sometimes your etheric template becomes distorted over time. You've become so far off track with your pre-birth soul agreements that actually your template shifts and you're not in the divine alignment anymore that you used to be. And ultimately, let's come down to the heart chakra, which is the gateway to the fourth level of the field, the astral realm. Now, and you should feel a much more of a spaciousness in the fourth level of the field. It's unstructured as you enter the astral realm, where your ideas have moved from the broadcast from God, from the celestial realms, and ultimately into your etheric template to hold the blueprint in the causal plane. The etheric template is your ability to hold the idea in the causal plane. If you can't hold it in the causal plane, it's not going to happen in the terrestrial plane. Right? So then it comes down to the astral, which is when your idea starts creating relationships and blueprints in the astral. You have to build it in the astral realm before it's going to drop down into the physical. Okay, so the secret is to be able to hold that frequency indefinitely as a broadcast signature. If you cannot hold it and you drop and you get knocked around by triggers and upsets and irritations, the astral, your frequency drops, and the blueprints that you're building in the astral plane collapse, and new blueprints get built on the lower frequency that you're having. Now, here's the problem that most people have, is that people can't hold the frequency of the vision long enough and stable enough to anchor it into being, because they've still got personal patterns and issues in the auric field that knock them around. And what's happening is they get knocked around by triggers and irritations and upsets. And what happens is that if you get triggered, the first thing that you notice is that your vibration drops, right? You go into thoughts and feelings and start making up stories. Who knows that? We all get triggered, right? I had a little bit of a process just last night, actually. Another layer of my story came into my awareness that I was able to do a big healing and processing on. My tendency to rush, right, and to try to do things quickly. Found a root cause for that. So it was a little victory for myself last night. The game is to be able to unwind your triggers and irritations and upsets that are taking you off the frequency broadcast of the holding of your idea. And the astral realm is where you've got to hold it in particular, because that's where the templates get built. Then you drop down to the third level of the field, which is your mental body. If you have your internal belief systems that are stored in the mental body, the belief systems aren't stored necessarily, and thoughts aren't stored necessarily inside your brain. They're stored in the energy field of your mental body. And so if your mental body doesn't hold aligned beliefs and coherent thinking, then the energy that wants to create won't drop down from the third level to the second level, or maybe from the fourth level to the third level, because there's discordances in the mental body. And then so on for the emotional body. So if you take your hands again and place it over your second chakra, you'll feel the second level of your field, your emotional body, where your emotions live. Your mental body and emotional body must be coherently vibrationally attuned to the highest vision. And when we come off of that signature, the cascading of consciousness can't step itself down to your level of the field. And then ultimately, it wants to drop down into the etheric body, the first level. So put your hands together and put them over your first chakra, and you'll feel the first level of the field, right? And this is the etheric body. This is the template for the physical body. This is what your tissues grow from. Your tissues grow from the first level of the field. And then where the currents of consciousness from God go, they go into your DNA. From the first level of the field, it comes into your DNA as a DNA photonic expression. So your DNA begins to express the photons of light that are the exact signature of God's intent on the planet. And you end up releasing biophotonic light emission that's perfectly harmonically attuned to create his intent, being expressed through you as a signature. But if there are any blocks in the gates coming down the levels of the field, you won't get that signal being emitted through your DNA, because your DNA light emission signature is you birthing the idea into the physical domain by the light you're emitting from your DNA. Does that make sense, everyone? How it drops down through the layers and emits into the field as DNA, the biophotonic light emission, and that's how creation happens. And then ultimately, once you've got it in the fullness of creation, all that reverses and it goes all back to God again, because ultimately everything is for God. And so that is how creation happens down through the levels of your field. That is the particle physics of creation. Now, what I've heard, what I've directly experienced is that The seventh level holds the karma. And so sometimes opportunities for this don't even drop in because the karmic gates are closed. Now, what I've experienced is that in your pathway of process and your developmental pathway, you get conditioned from your parents to be not vibrationally attuned to those outcomes. And you have to do the inner work to build up your auric field and build up the cascade of consciousness and everything again to be able to ensure that you're vibrationally attuned to bring in your previous soul agreements. And this is why you must turn yourself into the person who can hold the signatures of it all. And so ultimately, a lot of things get programmed is that, first things is that your chakras get programmed. These chakras in the first 7 years of life become programmed, and the programming you receive is from your parents. And here's like a quick summary of those parents, of your imprinting from your parents, right? In the first year of life, your first chakra is getting imprinted with, instinctual survival patterns. So if you don't feel safe enough in your family home because your parents are arguing a lot, you don't feel safe in survival, you get imprinted in the root chakra with that. And then in the second year or two of life, it's all about the sacral chakra getting imprinted. It's about your fear of loss or fear of loss of creativity or pleasure. Pleasure and intimacy are getting programmed, or guilt or shame are getting programmed, right? And then as you come to 2 to 4 years old, right, your personal power center, right, your third chakra is getting programmed. The need for dominance or fear or inadequacy. And all of these things that are getting programmed through the heart, the throat, the third eye, happen in those, early years of life. And literally, if you don't do any work, your energy centers are broadcasting these frequencies, because simultaneously your chakras are stepping down the frequency from source, but they also become the projection portals of your movie of life. What I mean by that is your chakras are also populating your experience. It's like a movie projector. You are literally a movie projector. Your chakras are the lens on the movie projector. The light shining into the movie projector is your higher consciousness. And the film inside the movie projector is your DNA, which hosts everything. So if you've got a very small light coming into the DNA, which is distorted because you're running shadow programs, and your lens on your movie projector is dirty, you're projecting a particular type of movie to the screen. The problem most people have is they try to go to the screen to change the movie, right? They try to do things on the outside of life to try to create their life to be different. There's strategies and techniques and processes and systems that they follow on the external side of life. But really, the movie screen is going to look the same, because you don't change the movie you want to experience in your life by going to the movie screen. You change it by going to the movie projector. You change it by enhancing and bringing a bigger consciousness into your projector, by holding a higher consciousness. You work it by upgrading your DNA to work through the shadows and transcend your imprints, your personal programming, so that the DNA can unlock and you move and can start expressing more of your gifts. Because ultimately what I've noticed is on this path is that your pain is your medicine and your wounds become your wisdom. And when you work through wounding, you hold a transcended code of that state, and you broadcast a higher frequency override program of the wound you have worked through yourself. So you ultimately, as many of you know, I teach healing, and I've got a 3-year program. The more I work in this field, the more I've come to realize it's less about technique, and it's more about the station of consciousness you hold and the particular wounds you have worked through that become the medicine for someone else. You can't heal someone when you're broken yourself, right? You can't heal someone when you hold fracture in yourself. And so healing happens when you become more at whole. And your ability to hold a vision for your life's outcome is really, your ability to work through your own woundings. And so ultimately, these form the imprints of your energy centers that create the movie projector of your life. And ultimately, these end up running through your meridians. Your meridians get kind of blocked. But your meridians and your chakras are what I call superficial energetic anatomy. superficial energetics. Most people, most healers are trying to fix people by working on the chakras and the meridians. That's not how you do it. Most of the healing industry is completely in the wrong direction, in my opinion, because they're only working superficially. The secret is to work on deep energetics. And deep energetics is bypassing the chakras, because the chakras will correct themselves when you work on the deep energetics. The chakras and how they're functioning are the symptoms, not the cause of your reality. And if you can understand that there's something much, much more important happening at the deeper levels of your psyche that are creating your chakras to behave the way they are unconsciously, the more that you can start to work on those layers, which is really, really where I think this conversation gets interesting for you. Because I'm going to give you now the roadmap to your deep energetics, right? And this is really understanding your core wounds, right? And so your core wound down here, let's go through it from the top. You know, when you get triggered, think about the last time you got triggered. Take a moment to think when you were really irritated, pissed off, upset, right? The irritation, upset brings in heightened feelings and worrying thoughts. And what drives those are faulty beliefs. These faulty beliefs were built off either an unmet need or a direct trauma. Now, the unmet need or a direct trauma is what you experienced in your conditioning growing up. And this is what's created what I might call behavioral archetypes. And these behavioral archetypes, such as the drifter, the anchor, the giver, the warrior, the perfectionist, are standard ways that you behave in order to avoid feeling the pain of the core wound. Because holding this whole constellation together, the deep energetics of it is the core wound. The core wound is the trapped piezoelectric energy stored inside your system. Most simply stated, wounding and pain is trapped energetic wounding still held inside your system that hasn't found an exit yet from your childhood. And what you've done is created a whole series of compensations to prevent you from, feeling that pain again. And so when someone turns up in your life, because your wound is simultaneously attracting someone into your reality to, connect to the wound because of the law of vibration. Your wound is simultaneously attracting people to irritate it, and simultaneously from your own energy field, having energy push that wound away. Now, this pushing this wound away is important because this is creating unconscious behavior inside of you. And this unconscious behavior are these invisible energetic defenses that drive this unconscious behavior. Let's drop in a little deeper here and go into it, because we're really getting to the core of your energetic anatomy and energetic understanding. So at the center here is the wound, is the trapped emotional mental pain, and also some trapped core essence. Your trapped soul essence and core essence gets trapped in with the wound. And you continually will attract people to irritate that until it gets healed. And so what happens is that when someone comes along and says something that triggers you, energy gets activated to push that energy away from coming into contact with the wound. Your passive energetic defense turns active, and your energetic defense becomes activated. And we've uncovered, over the years and researching all of this, there are primarily 5 different ways the energy will move to protect the wound. And it's these invisible energy field movements that are your deep energetics that are creating all your behaviors that are preventing you from fulfilling your purpose. And so if we go into these, essentially, in the early years, let me talk you through it through a lens of energetic developmental psychology. In the when you're first conceived and you're growing in the womb in the first year of life, your soul consciousness is trying to ground into your tissues and into the earth. If there's a lot of drama around the home, conflict and anger, what happens is that your soul consciousness can't fully drop in, and it wants to keep leaving to go up to the spirit world where it feels more safe. And so what happened is that this ends up creating a particular type of defense that we just call the leaving energetic defense, is that the pattern you establish over time is it's safer for me to be in the spirit world than the physical world because of the conflict at home and the anger and the frustration and all that stuff at home. Who here resonates with that? Just type yes, leaving pattern or leaving defense in there, right? You get like this. You feel more safe in the spiritual plane. Philip's asking, can we get a copy of the slides? Philip, this is part of a course, Enhance Your Energetic Intelligence. If you buy Enhance Your Energetic Intelligence, you get all these slide decks and everything else, and all the writings and all the read-ups. Everything's right there for you. You can go ahead and get that if you're finding it of value. So you feel more safe in the spiritual dimension, right? So that's kind of like, you know, a big one for people. You go up there as a way of coping with that. Now, ultimately, during your energetic psychological development, once you have ground into your body, right? If you've passed that stage of development, you're looking for nurturance next from your mother, right? And so, how much love, nurturance, softness, and milk could I receive from my mum, right? And if you got all your needs met, you feel full in your core, right? Your mother becomes your source for filling up your core. And if you are able to fill up your core, you feel like you've got all your needs met. But if you didn't get filled up enough from nurturance and milk from your mum, you feel a bit empty. You're kind of like wanting to get more. And so you're always trying to pull more towards you because of you're coming from lack. And what this does is this ends up you know, holding another type of way that your energy field runs, called what we might call the you know, merging defense. Is that you're always looking to pull and draw energy from other people around you because you never got your needs met from your mother when you're young. Who here resonates with that and ends up like, you know, feeling like a little bit emotionally needy? If you feel like you need your partner to behave in a certain way in order for you to feel love, you're probably running this one, right? This is quite a common one for people because, you know, all of our mothers have come from wounded mothers. Okay, they did the best they can, but ultimately, you know, we don't always get all of our needs met from our parents. And so this creates this archetype as we grow older, where we didn't get all our needs met. I need my partner to behave in a certain way in order for me to feel love. So it sets up an expectation, which creates disappointment and then leads to blame. And that expectation, disappointment, blame cycle in relationships and subtle attempt to control our partner comes from that wounding of not having enough nurturance from our mother, and ends up having our energy field merge into other people's and draw energy from them because we're trying to get all our resources met because our mother couldn't do that for us. And then ultimately, if you can move past that phase, the next thing is that the energy comes down into the body and into the earth and ultimately settles in the core, and you feel filled up in your core. Then the energy wants to go out into the world. And that's when you go out into the world as a toddler. You start walking and experimenting and exploring the world. You find a need inside you. You want to go meet it. You want to go fulfill it. You want to go create. You want to go explore. If your parents were a little bit, say, controlling over that and prevented you from going out into the world and were maybe like a helicopter parent and we're keeping you kind of locked and stopped from meeting your needs, your energy tries to go out into the world to explore, but it can't. It gets stopped by your parents. And the energy gets blocked there. And then the energy over time, as it keeps trying to test your parents and realizing that your parents, you know, won't yield and your parents are keeping you controlled, the energy comes in and down. And as a consequence of the energy coming in and down, it forms that energetic pattern of the enduring pattern, where over time the energy just gets stuck in and down and you end up being a little bit kind of stuck in life, right? Whereby, you know, the energy of the enduring pattern moves in and downwards, right? And you end up becoming stuck. This is why we call this behavioral pattern the anchor, because you end up anchored in relationships, anchored in jobs, anchored in situations. You find it hard to move on because you're not very good at initiating stuff, right? So that's kind of what kind of happens there. And as a consequence of the energy moving in and down, there's a lack of action and a fear of change in these people. And on this one, the leaving pattern is that the problem that people who hold this pattern have is a lack of follow through. They're always leaving situations and aren't able to follow through with their ideas. And this one here has the problem here is the result in life is a lack of individuality. You get too influenced by others, and maybe in your relationship and your projects and your ideas, you get too influenced by others. Ultimately, then, once your energy has gone out into the world, and if your parents can manage you through that, they can keep you safe, but also let you explore, which is what you want. You can go off and explore the world. Your energy as a toddler is able to go out into the world. And the energy comes down from source into your core, goes out into the world, and you can go and explore. Ultimately, from that place, as you become a little bit older, and you come up to 8, 9, and into early teenage years, you want to be kept safe by a loving, benevolent force bigger than you. And that's what your parents do. They provide a boundary for you. And your parents providing a boundary for you in order to keep you safe so that you can feel safe allows you to feel the love of a benevolent, loving force bigger than you, keeping you safe. If your parents can't hold that because your energy is bigger than that love, right? You smash through it and do it your way. Don't listen to your parents. You end up losing the trust of Creator because your parents are holding the archetype of God. And if you don't learn to trust the loving, benevolent energy force because it wasn't there for you, you lose the connection with God and source as a loving, benevolent force keeping you safe. So you end up having to try to control the world and the situation around you because there's no loving, benevolent energy keeping you safe. So you end up controlling the world and the situation around you by projecting your energy into the future and willing it into action. And the problem with this energy defense as you run it in life is that you create constant conflict because you're always looking for battles to win, things to control. And when you're trying to control things your way, often it irritates and it creates other people. You're not in the flow of things. Ultimately, then, if you can move past that stage, and your parents are able to provide a loving, benevolent force for you, they also need to mirror your emotional world. And they're able to parent you emotionally, not just for performance like reading, writing, arithmetic, sports, and providing a perfect household for all of that, but not providing any emotional bandwidth for you. Ideally, what needs to happen is that your parents can hold you when you're angry and allow your anger to run. They can allow you for the sadness to come through. They can allow you for the joy to be expressed. They allow for an emotional range to be acceptable in the house. Not only acceptable, but encouraged. Because if you don't have that, and your parents end up having a very small emotional bandwidth and can't hold you in your sadness or anger, you don't learn to express your emotions, so you lose your emotional compass as you're an adult. And you end up as an adult running everything through algorithms of the mind. When this happens, I've got to do that. When this person says that, I've got to adjust my behavior in this way because I've got to keep them liking me. You live your life by a series of rules, and you end up creating the last, energetic defense type, which is the rigidity, running everything in the mental realm and how everything needs to be seen to be perfect from the outside. And the problem with the rigid pattern is that you run everything by a series of rules in life because you can't allow yourself emotions to lead you. So you're guided by the mind, and it creates a lack of flexibility. It's difficult to enter flow simply because you are kind of, in that energetic defense, right? Now, over our conditioning period, all of us have received conditioning in one way or another. And what I invite you to do of those different types of energetic structures, right? Let me just quickly review them for you again. The leaving defense, energy goes up to the spirit world, right? And moves you towards a spiritual focus, right? The merging, which is defense, which moves you to a relationship focus. The enduring defense moves you to a fixed reference focus, doesn't allow you to want to go into change. You stay stuck. Aggressive energetic defense moves you to a future focus, or the rigid defense moves you towards a perfectionist or a highly idealized self focus. Just as a matter of interest, take a moment to write into the text chat which one or two of those resonate for you. Resonate with which one. You can go, merging or enduring or aggressive. Which one of these? And I'll put the names up here as you're doing that to be able to explore it as well as you're going into that. Okay, so there's the leaving, the merging, the enduring, the aggressive, and the rigid. Leaving moves you to a spiritual focus. Merging moves you to a relationship focus. Enduring moves you to a fixed reference focus, aggressive to a future focus, and rigid towards a highly idealized self focus. Now, what the problems are is that leaving, the energy flows away from you, and energy moves away from the body. With the merging, the energy moves towards you and merges with other people. The enduring, the energy moves inward and downward. Aggressive, the energy moves upward and outward. And the rigid, energy is restricted and rigid. Now, why this is important is because it creates all the results in your life. And these are the results that you get. A lack of follow through for the leaving, a lack of individuation, an individuality. You get too influenced by other people and your ideas and projects and the merging. Enduring, you can't make change, your fear of change. Aggressive, you're always in constant conflict. Or rigid, there's a lack of flexibility. And these are invisible energetic defenses are driving these various archetype behaviors that I covered earlier for you. And this is the invisible energies that are driving your life and creating all these issues. We've got rigids. I'm just looking at the comments here. Rigid, enduring and leaving, rigid defense, perfectionism, rigid mostly, leaving, rigid, aggressive and rigid, spiritual and merging, used to be enduring. Okay, so you're all getting these insights. Now, here's the secret. These invisible energetic defenses are creating all the results in your life and are preventing you from hitting the next level of your awareness. And so this is kind of like what's really important is that, you need to understand these energetic defenses because you want to be able to release, the blockages, right, that are holding all these together. And what is holding them in place is trauma, right? Trauma and the core wound is holding all of these energetic defenses in place. And when you can go down and to start working on those core traumas and traumas by receiving healing and doing the deeper work, you start to work through things. And so these are, I would say, the deep energetic psychology is where you need to work on and start working on yourself. You start working on these. This is kind of like the aha kind of moments of how everything works. Well, thanks, and your beautiful comment there. Incredible work you and your team have done to create this framework. Thank you so much. They've done a great job on the design, and we've spent a long time piecing all these things together. I'm glad you're enjoying the presentation. Okay. So does anyone at this point have any questions about any of those things on energetic psychology? The chakras, the meridians, the nadis, superficial energetics. They are ultimately governed by the core wounds and the energetic defenses of the invisible energy defenses, which drive all your behaviors. Is everyone with me so far? Yes. Awesome. Well, the secret here is to go deeper into your energetic world and start actually working on it. And what I'd love to do today for you is to, create pathways that if you would like to work with me in doing that, I would love to support you. I want to, typically in the last 3 years, I've mainly been working over a longer period of time, like a year, with healers. And what I want to do now is open up an opportunity to work with me for people who aren't healers, who just want to work on this for their growth. Before I get into how you might be able to do that, we've got one more level to go on the Melchizedek model of self-actualization. Let's take a look at that. All right. So, well, we've covered energetic psychology, and now we're up to soul psychology. Okay. And I think you're going to enjoy this aspect of soul psychology. Right. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these key principles here and on the psychology of the soul. Now, to give you a little diagram of something I described at the earlier stages of the presentation on the cascade of consciousness, right? Here's our universal time-space matrix held of dimensions 13, 14, and 15, right? Hold the universal sound fields that hold the template of the matrix, 12, 11, 10. Your consciousness steps itself down here, steps itself down, steps itself down, steps itself down, steps itself down. From an avatar consciousness, where we have 144 souls unified as a consciousness, and dropping down to an oversoul that have 12 unified souls as a unified consciousness, and ultimately your individuated soul. These are your consciousness stationed in the different dimensional bands. What we want to do is to be able to reactivate you and bring more of your higher consciousness down into you. Now, remember before I'd spoken about your DNA? Well, this is the angelic diamond sun DNA. And what happens is that you have to have your DNA strands, energetic strands, begin to open so that you can begin to accrete this higher aspects of your consciousness, right? And so each DNA strand has 12 fire codes, which are kilons, and you've got 12 base magnetic codes and 12 electrical acceleration codes, giving you a total of 144 vector codes. And these 144 vector codes is what comprises of one DNA strand. The magnetic portion, which comes from your mother's line, and one from your father's line, which is the electric acceleration code. And so these kind of create within your DNA template your DNA makeup. And so these, as you start to access and activate all 12 strands of your DNA, a full 12-strand DNA template has 144 fire codes that have activated, 144 base magnetic codes, 144 electrical acceleration codes, for a total of 1,728 vector codes. These vectors are the programming language of your template. As you start to hold a higher consciousness, your DNA will begin to open and you start to accrete those higher aspects of your consciousness, giving you more programming parameters on things. And so as you kind of do that, you start to hold a higher expression of consciousness. And ultimately, what we want to achieve is holding a higher consciousness. And so here's a slide I had designed, which I think does a good job of explaining that. And ultimately, what you want to do in your life is hold a higher station of consciousness as possible. Here's you with your soul consciousness working through, right? And then your oversoul and your avatar and your ascended consciousness. Can you see how that as you move up into your soul matrix, there's progressively more and more of your consciousness available to stream down into your physical body? Because ultimately what we're talking about is a soul stream. And we want to give you access to the highest aspects of your soul stream as possible by doing the deeper shadow work. There's two levels of shadow work. There's the shadow work on your body and energy, and there's the shadow work on the soul. And what we've noticed is that the shadow work on the soul psychology work, does the massive expansions for people in terms of the amount of light, energy, and frequency that can come in. Some of the reasons why people can't, go through this initiation of soul absorption. Soul absorption is when the soul merges up into the oversoul, and you begin streaming directly from the oversoul. Okay, let me explain that again. This is, one of the key spiritual initiations that adepts will go through. At some point in your life, when you've done enough work on your mother-father wound and you've got a degree of stability in your energy field, you're raising your frequency and expanding your consciousness enough, your soul will absorb up into the oversoul, and you'll begin to stream directly from your oversoul down into your physical body. And what happens is an enormous upgrade for your consciousness and how you experience life. Let me explain it like this. It's like moving from this stream of energy on your soul, streaming down into your body hologram, to that. You see the difference? That says how much organic soul consciousness is streaming down into you when you're at the level of your soul consciousness. Once you go through soul absorption and you're fully integrated and have an embodied station of consciousness, you can start streaming from your oversoul consciousness. Can you imagine what happens to your life if you move from that to that? What do you think happens in your life? Right? When you move into oversoul consciousness, anyone got any ideas? Type into the text chat, right? Everything, of course, speeds up, right? And you can kind of speed up it massively. Everything kind of speeds up. When I do soul psychology reads for people, and you can book one on my website, when I do a full soul psychology read, I let you know what station of consciousness you're holding. We go in and track where you're at. Are you at soul consciousness? What dimension are you anchored in? And then normally there's a little bit of a gap. Normally you're stationed in a dimension with a little bit of bleed through from below above as well. Starts to drip in. Pretty cool knowing where you're streaming from. And ultimately, that initiation of soul absorption is when your soul merges up into the oversoul and you stream direct from that. Then of course from there's another initiation, oversoul absorption. Oversoul absorption is when your oversoul absorbs up into your avatar, right? And look at the difference on that between your oversoul and your avatar. This is like moving from unified 12 souls. Now, here's what you've got to do in here is you've got to start working on the karmic imprints of your oversoul. So you end up taking personal responsibility with this one little body. You start cleaning all the karma of the oversoul. And so what's able to happen is that, you're able to start finding these karmic knots and pockets, and you can start pulling these networks, which suddenly allow so much more light to come through your system because you've cleaned up the mess that sits in the oversoul. And ultimately, you can start cleaning up the mess that sits in the avatar, right? And you start cleaning up the karma of all 144 souls that are unified. And you can start cleaning up your karmic aspect of your avatar. And this is you with your consciousness streaming from dimensions 10, 11, and 12, streaming into your physical body. Okay? And ultimately, you can go beyond that. You can go from avatar to ascended. This is you streaming your higher consciousness from outside the time-space matrix. Okay? And of course, there's a long way to go from, soul to ascended, but ultimately, there's pathways that have been cut now. And there are people in the universe, people on the planet who are holding an ascended consciousness. So this isn't something that's pie in the sky stuff. It's actually, happening. So it's because the energy and frequency and vibration is available. And really, the secret to all of this is your own depth, right? And it's your own depth of experience, right? You've got to be deeply embodied to do this. This is why we keep running, initiations for people, because it helps with the deep embodiment, and it solves these big, soul psychology problems and energetic psychology problems. Now, what I'm interested in is if anyone would like to go on a journey with me this year, I'm looking for 10 to 12 people who are committed to going on this journey and to holding a higher consciousness, to do the deeper shadow work required on the energetic psychology and also on the soul psychology. Who here might be interested in going on a journey where you get to work closely within a very small group with me for a year? I haven't done this for the public for probably 2 or 3 years because I've only been working with healers. And I've been focusing on helping healers to get more effective. But I'm looking for a small group to work with it because I've got a whole lot of new ascension technologies and healings and processes I want to work with people on. I'm looking for some people who would want to go on an accelerated journey on their consciousness. If that's you, I'd be interested in speaking with you and inviting you onto a journey. And so how that looks is basically going to be a call every fortnight. We'll do a fortnightly call, and I'll be working, because it's such a small group, bespoke. It'll be a totally tailored kind of approach. I think where we should start is energetic psychology. And for about a couple of months, 3 months, we'll go deep into the archetype woundings of energetic psychology, and I'll be deeply integrating you, pointing out what you've got to work on, helping you understand what your light quotient is, what you've got to work on, where the wounds are. It's kind of like a whole allowing of me to work on you very directly and personally within a small group. The name of this program, I've got a lot of people saying yes, 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 yes. Listen, this isn't like a wide program. It's a small program. So the investment is 12,500 US. You can have a payment plan for that. You can pay. We can work out a payment plan each month for that. But it's only a small group of people. So I want to work on a small group so I can have a lot of individual attention for you, and I can do all the readings. Over time, I'll get a lot of your soul psychology readings and help you figure out what's missing to get you there. If you'd like to apply for that, there are going to be just 12 places. Please follow that link there. It's a simple application form, and it just captures a few details for us. and allows us to kind of figure out, who you are, what you want to do, and want to move forward. And you can pay 12,500 up front, or $1,111 a month for 12 months. And that's the beautiful offer I have off the back of this presentation. I'm really committed to work with people who are committed, and I really want to help people burst through to the next level of their awareness, and with the stated aim of clearly, objectively, wherever you come into this program at as a station of consciousness, my guarantee is by the end of the year, you will hold a higher station of, you will be anchored in a higher dimension of consciousness before you started. We'll measure it before you came in, and we'll measure it on the way out. And I guarantee, otherwise, we'll guarantee you get to a higher station of consciousness. Okay. As a support for you, because with the healings and precision that we can offer now, because of the stream of the Christic organic consciousness field, we're able to get such precision on what you need for you. So that's it. Money back guarantee. Yeah, I'd be open for a money back guarantee, but the problem I have with that is that this guarantee needs that you need to do the work. I can be telling you what to do, but if I tell you what to do, you don't go do the work, that's like not fair. So if you do the work that I say you need to do, I will guarantee with a money back guarantee you'll hold a higher station of consciousness by the end. And I'll be able to track if you're doing it or not. Don't worry. Okay, so that's a pretty good guarantee. Yeah, I mean, this will pay for itself tenfold. The reason why it'll pay for itself tenfold is simply because if you move, wherever you are up to a higher expression of consciousness, more is coming through your life. You're going to have a higher attractive field. The attractive field is going to go up for whatever you're bringing through. Does anyone have any questions? There's a paper form link there. You can go and apply. It's a chance to work with me very intimately in a small group in an incredibly precise way to get you into a higher state of consciousness. Does anyone have any questions from the presentation? John.
Hi, Yoda. The money is a bit of a block for us at the moment. Are you likely to be doing this again in another 12 months?
Yeah, I think maybe I would look at doing it again in 12 months. So yeah, I can only I've got so much on in my life, John, as you know, I can't do too many groups. So I'm going to just do one group a year on this. I can't guarantee the price will be the same. This is going to be the cheapest it's ever going to be, but maybe your situation will be expanded and it won't matter.
Yeah, exactly. No, you are the busiest man I know. So yeah, you juggle everything. I have no idea, but anyway, no, that's really the answer I needed. No, I'd love to do it. Very much, I would love to do it. Lizzie does too.
At some point, yeah. No worries.
Yeah.
And how you doing since the initiation? Things are still good?
Magic. You were right when you said that was the best medicine journey that I'll do. It really has. The integration's been outstanding. Outstanding. I'd love to just sit and have a 10-minute chat to you at some point, but
we'll do that at some point too. Yeah. Good. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Anyone else got any? You can put your hand up. If you click on yourself there are three buttons, three dots, and you can just put your hand up or ask to speak. Or has anyone else got any questions about, say, anything I've covered in the presentation or anything about the course that I'm offering? I don't have a landing page for this course. This is just kind of like small group. This doesn't really need a whole landing page. Hi, Christoph. I've been seeing amazing healings, life changes doing family constellations, the Book of 5 biological laws of nature, and the psychic roots. Thought you might be interested. Thank you. Yeah. So, obviously, here go the layers you need to work on. And here's my, let's call it order of operations and what you need to work on when. You got to start with your mother-father wound, right? The mother-father wound is the core key to it all. If you still feel triggered or upset by your parents, you've still got more work to do. Right. Next layer is you've got to work on through the ancestral lineage, right? You got to start cleaning your ancestral line. That is your ancestral karmic loads and imprints. Then you've got to go into your past lives, right? And then you've got to go into your quantum lives outside of this earth. And most people don't get past the mother-father wound. You've still got imprints from that. But ultimately, you want to get up and start working through those layers in that order. Cool. Is quantum lives our past lives? Yeah, and I call quantum lives, quantum, because ultimately we're experiencing all of those lives simultaneously. It's only on Earth, our Earth here, we consider it to be in the past, but actually we're experiencing every life simultaneously. That's kind of what's happening. Right, let me just place the application form. Who's just type a yes into the text chat if you plan to send in a application, so I can get a sense of the interest. Awesome. Got a lot of people saying yes. Awesome. I can guarantee that I think this would be the best price that you'll get it in if I offer this again in the future. So I'm really excited to have it. You guys are going to be like my, I've got so many new activational healings that are designed around ascension mechanics that I'm excited to test them on. I am developing a course, of course, for my third years coming up, and there's a whole lot of downloads that are coming. So it'd be nice to have a few people go through these. Is there a magic bullet to release the core wound? Okay, that's a great question. The why core wounds are so tough to reach is because you've been avoiding them your entire life. There's such a sophisticated system around avoiding them. Usually lower energies and compactions. Sometimes there's compactions. I would say that, Norris, that anytime that anyone comes to one of our live events, if they're ready, they will access their core wounds. It doesn't have to be with plant medicines. It can be just organic. We are going to be doing more organic work. I did one recently in Vancouver. 70%, 80% of the people popped their core wounds. And that's because of shamanic magic, right? We've got, a high energy stream of consciousness. We've got skills, tools, and magic that bang, magically pops open these wounds. You have to be prepared to go into the pain. And if you go into the pain, you can open that up and have that beautiful experience. Sky, awesome. Yes, I see your soul psychology session come through. Awesome. I'm looking forward to doing that session for you. So once you get your questionnaire in, I'll make a start. Awesome. And Sky, because you've done that, I'll speak to you on the call. But if you want to come and do the session with us, if you want to do this program with us, happy to talk about that too with you. And I'll happily give you a little discount seeing you signed up for the soul psychology session. Awesome. Well, Raphael, you haven't got the funds yet. Well, if you can do a payment plan, of course, is okay. You can get 1,111 a month. Ultimately, I want to get this group started in the next couple of weeks. So that's cool. Yes, Gemma, there is going to be opportunities this year in New Zealand. We're not doing any big groups. We're only doing very small groups this year. We're only doing groups of 4. So our next one's already sold out. Gemma, if you're interested in either, just email my team is the best thing to get about it. Okay, go email the team. Anyone else? Got any questions? Awesome. Thanks, Tara. Okay, everyone. Beautiful to have that. Hopefully, I've given you the best I've got on how everything works. I've given you a really deep and clear understanding of the path of, let's call it integrating, holding a fully integrated consciousness. If you're interested, you can go along here to sign up for our group that's going on a journey over the next 12 months. If someone's asking about the soul psychology session's 5K. It takes a lot, as you can imagine, quite a bit of time to distill and skill, and there's also a combined session with Jono on that. I'll quickly just bring that up for you on my website and show you how you can clear on that. All those who registered for this training, I will send a replay to, so no worries on there. Here we go. If you go to my personal services, there's a private soul psychology session there you can book. Okay, so you can do that on my website. Awesome. I hope that all resonates, everyone. Here's the soul psychology. If anyone wants to book that, I would recommend to for the price cost investment to go for the year-long journey with us. I think while I won't give you the full psychology session report in one go, I'll be drip feeding stuff over the course of the year. This will be the best pricing point and investment and bandwidth I'll have for people in a small group. I can really do some detailed work for you. Awesome. Okay, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that presentation today. Look for the core wounds. That's the first and foremost, the deepest layer is the core wounds, and then you can start, reversing engineering out from there. And the secrets of holding a higher consciousness is to focus on the core wounds and then working on the karmic knots, other core wounds there, on the shadow work on the soul. I hope that resonates. You've got a pathway home now, and I really look forward to seeing some of those of you who feel resonated with working with me for a year privately. Looks like there was a bunch of people interested in that. Really excited to do that for you. There's that link one last time, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. Thanks everyone for the call. I loved spending that time with you, and going from there. So bye everyone. Bye Lois. Bye Reese. Bye Kerry. Bye Annette. Jeanette. Irina. Gemma. Benny. Julia. Marcel. Take care everyone. Wonderful to have that time together. All my love. Say Krista. Bye. Bye everyone. Therese. Take care.